What's up?
Happy Wednesday.
Yep, Wednesday is here, and the show must go on. So disregard anything that doesn't sound natural because it's natural for today. Maybe one night only, maybe even extended until tomorrow too. But sports continues. It's not gonna stay there. It's not static. It moves around, so we're gonna move around with it. A lot still going on, regardless. Baseball season's over. We already know that. We saw the new Texas Rangers, the champions of the baseball world in the World Series, taking on the Diamondbacks. I expected it, but regardless, give them their props. Sports continues to go on.
Right.
College basketball is here. NBA is obviously here, and because of all the moves that were made, things are a lot more interesting than they probably would have been this early in the season from the past seasons that we've had. We look at the scores, and we talked about it yesterday of how you have a lot of these high-scoring games, 155, 146, 130. Reminds me of the freaking 80s or the 70s
The
when they would
early
have those
80s.
high-scoring games. In the 80s, exactly, when all
Yeah.
of high-scoring games. You wonder, man, how do you sit through that? But
Yeah, I remember, as I mentioned yesterday, Sunday nights on ESPN, they would have double headers. And I remember games like 142, 138,
yeah,
141, 135. And, star players would have 39 points and 32 points or whatever. They used to go. It was more of an up and down game back then, whereas now they're shooting threes. And you got a lot of great shooters, and if they get hot, those scores are going to go up because they're knocking down threes.
yeah, and no one's playing defense either. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters out there, the running gun, just running up and down the court. You know, the old Denver Nuggets team from years ago that used to just run up and down the court. Or even that college basketball Troy State team when it was Troy State instead of Troy, but they scored over 200 points in the game at one point, at one time. So it's
Loyola Marymount
Loyola Marymount, same thing.
shooting under 7 seconds. Bad
Oh, man.
shot, don't matter. Just shoot it, chuck it.
Yep, the old Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers team just
Mhm.
flying it, just running those points up, and they did it all the way into the tournament. I think they played Portland State. That's the game that Hank passed away in. But then when they continued to win, and then they ran into that UNLV team that would not be denied, but they still put up some points before they went down fighting. You know what I mean? It was an emotional time.
They did. They
But
did. They were fun to watch
man, come
because
on, that team's
because
hellified.
even if their shots weren't falling, they weren't playing any defense, so the other team was getting layups.
I hate to see their practices, man. What kind of whispers were they doing? They were doing suicides. That was their practice. They weren't even shooting.
Probably. Yep.
That was it.
Or
They
11
had the
9
love for it.
7s. You know what those are?
What?
11 9 7s.
No, I don't know what those are.
You go back and forth one time, that's one. You do it 11 times, but you have to do it within the certain time limit.
Oh,
And
okay.
then you go down to 9, then 7, then 5, then 3, then 1. 11 9 sevens.
Man, I wonder if
That's worse than
all
suicides. It's worse than
I'm about to
suicide.
say, because do all basketball teams do that? Because of all the sports I've played, I had not played organized basketball. So, and I've watched practices and all that, but I never really paid. I look at the suicides. I've seen people do the suicides. I know coaches. I watch their practices. But that,
Yeah.
what you're talking about, I haven't seen that.
For
But
me, it was all suicides. I played in grade school in my hometown. Then I moved to Indianapolis. I played in middle school. It was all suicides. But then when I got to high school, that's when I found 11 9 sevens.
it found
But
you.
but I didn't practice. Well, yeah, I didn't practice at other high schools or with the other high schools, so I don't know if they were doing them. I just know they did it at my high school.
Man, you know what? Though when it came down to crunch time, these guys' legs were still there, unless they overdid it in practice and then got to the game and didn't have much left. But I can see that basketball is one of those cardio games, anyways. I mean, it's aerobic. It's not anaerobic. It can be if you're running too damn much. But anyways, that Loyola Marymount team scoring like they were. The old Denver Nuggets team was doing a lot of the same. And yeah, man,
Yeah,
these
when
teams.
you're conditioned in basketball and you do not get tired, you have a big advantage. I mean, of course, everyone's going to take a blow here and there, but if you can go up and down all day, I mean, even if the other team's better than you, they get tired because they're not in condition.
And
And
that's
you know what
true.
they say, fatigue makes cowards out of all of us. And I'm not
And
saying that makes them cowards, but they have less effort to give.
and they do a lot less when they're that tired, man. You can see it in their
Right.
eyes. They're hoping that you don't continue to do what you're doing, and it
Like,
seems
man, this
hopeless.
dude's still running down because shit, man.
You know what? Exactly. They'll give you that Apollo Creed looking at Rocky get up and Rocky 1 like, damn, would you stay down, man?
Right,
That's what they look
right.
at him. I understand that. Same thing in boxing. When you look at somebody across the ring and they look like they're fresh as a daisy, even if they're playing the mind game as if they are tired when they really are, it just plays mind games with you. Yeah, basketball definitely something that you probably wouldn't think about it immediately, but when you think about it in reality, that kind of running up and down the court and people get tired. We get lost in those games. For people who don't play basketball in the regular, you probably get lost in those games seeing these teams go up and down the court and don't even think about the conditioning that's involved with these
Right.
guys doing that.
Right. I mean, for 140 some points to be scored in an NBA game, they're going up and down.
Yeah.
Even shooting threes, they got to get a lot of shots up to score that many points.
And for a team like the Celtics that scored 155 the other night, they're a defensive team. Bro,
Yeah.
they're a defensive team, man. They scoring like
They did their
all-star game
job
numbers.
defensively too.
That's what I'm saying. They're
One
playing
of
the defensive side
150,
and running with
105 or
you.
something. Yeah.
You get discouraged, man. You see them doing it on the defensive end, and then they're running up past you to score. All you can do is just go to the bench and get yelled at by your coach. And that's probably what happened. But yeah, we're obviously going to talk some basketball because it's pretty much basketball season all over the place. But college football still reigning supreme. The NFL still here. The next weekend NFL football starting on Thursday night. The Chicago Bears taking on the Panthers. But right now, as it stands, well, college football made their vote yesterday. The college football for the playoffs made their vote, and you still have Ohio State at number one, which I expected. You still have Georgia, even though they played Missouri well, and I think it was an excellent Missouri team that didn't get the credit they deserved, but they beat them the way they should have. So they have that name on their resume now, the same way Ohio State has Penn State's name on their resume. The odd team out so far in terms of that marquee name is Michigan, and in Florida State in terms of the marquee name. And in the ACC, there aren't any marquee names to play anymore for Florida State.
Right. And the other news is supposedly the NCAA or Big Ten could suspend Jim Harbaugh as soon as tomorrow and fine him. I don't know if they will do that. I don't know. I hear there's talk of Michigan lawyering up, try and get injunctions against the suspension. They're in their critical part of their schedule. They have Penn State this week, Ohio State in a couple weeks. They need their coach.
You can't get away with that first couple of games of the season they did this year when Jim Harbaugh and the defensive coordinator were gone and they were still able to.
You would think they need him, but Michigan, they had to respond to the allegations by today, and I saw reports saying that they submitted a 10-page report discussing why Jim Harbaugh should not be suspended, why there shouldn't be any penalties or whatever. We have to see what how the Big Ten or NCAA responds. There's been word of there's a travel. They had a travel budget. They had tickets to all these games, but has there been concrete evidence released? So we don't know what the NCAA knows. But if there's talk of them suspending him, they must have something. And like I said last week, if the school rescinded his extension offer, they know something too.
Yeah, they know something. This reminds me a little bit of the Deshaun Watson deal when Cleveland gave him all that money. I was like, man, the only reason why they could give him all that money and guarantee it is they have to know something. And come to find out they didn't really know anything. So it made it like a stupid decision, spending all that money on a player that you still was cloudy about. But even more, adding more to this Michigan debacle, because that's what it's turning out to be, is their star running back, Blake Corum. He's now a little bit in the mix because the person who had gotten this, the staffer, it's Connor Stallions. He's the one that's kind of gotten this into the limelight and everyone's focusing on Michigan because of what he's been doing. He's kind of the lead guy, stealing signals and going to the games, getting the tickets. Well, now he opens up an LLC and has Blake Corum's name on it. Blake says, I don't know anything about it. Word? Do you? Do you not? They started an LLC called BC2 Housing LLC. Blake Corum is on there. Stallions is on there. And I think somebody else is on there. He said he doesn't know anything about it. Now, that's criminal.
That seems to be the Michigan way. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
What are you talking about, right? I know nothing about it. I know nothing.
And Corum says, I got my lawyers on top of it. With that kind of rhetoric, Your lawyer might be Jim Harbaugh. Just say you don't know anything. I'm like, what the heck is going on? The more they dig, the more these issues come out. So it was a Jim Harbaugh, it was a Steiners thing, and maybe even other staff members. Now you're talking about players who may be in the middle of it, maybe not. But if nothing else, Steiners is in trouble if he did use Blake Corum's name without his permission and has him on an LLC. But that doesn't sound quite right. I think that Blake had to have known something. He's down with this thing. He just knows that everything's kind of imploding, and he just wants to find a way out.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like some entrepreneur wannabe says, you know what? I'm gonna add LeBron James to my LLC, and we're gonna blow up. That's not gonna go well. You're gonna get a cease and desist right away, man.
Immediately, and then some handcuffs. Forget the cease and desist. You were just blatant with what you did. You just knew. But this is what's going on in Michigan right now, and I know that it can be a distraction off the field. Obviously, on the field, could it really? Are the other teammates out there thinking that there's going to be something that's going on? Do they really think coach might not be here, so we might not be able to handle it? Even though they did it on a lighter scale in the beginning of the season when he missed the first 3 games, which should have been 4.
I don't know. I just hope that if they lose to Penn State, that isn't the narrative. Oh, they lost because of the distractions, the sign stealing scandal. I mean, when you show up to play on Saturday, you put all that shit to the side. You put it. And if not, if you lose because you're distracted, well, that's your own fault. That's on you.
These are supposedly aspiring NFL players for the future. And just like NFL players, when it becomes their job, they're able to compartmentalize and be able to, whatever nonsense is going on off the field, you're still able to get on the field and do the job that you were paid to do. And there's not much of a drop-off, if any drop-off at all. And this is what these guys on this high level, who Michigan does have quite a few NFL possibilities and draft picks going into the draft, you think they would do the same, especially with other bigger teams. They're not the first team to get in trouble anyhow and still continue to win. In basketball, I was talking about just yesterday and seeing that UNLV team that always had issues, but they rallied around one another. They still won a national championship, or even still kept their names in the limelight and was still winning on a high level. Well, we've seen football teams, that SMU team from years back who eventually had gotten the death penalty, they were still playing well until that death penalty. And there was a lot of investigating going on back then.
And the opposite could be true also. They could come out with a chip on their shoulder, a me against the world mentality, and just
that's true.
Pound Penn State. We got to see what happens, see how they respond.
Because Penn State is one of those teams, man. I think the Big Ten, I've said this past season, I said it throughout the season, the top 3 teams in the Big Ten, I believe, are better than the top 3 teams in the SEC, which is the dominant conference over the past several years. In fact, almost plural when it comes to decades when these championships are concerned. LSU, what used to be LSU, Georgia and Alabama, I don't think that they're equal. I don't think they're equal to or better than Penn State or Ohio State or Michigan. I think those teams
if you rank the 6 schools, you either go Michigan or Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Michigan or Ohio State 3, and then probably Penn State 4 before Bama.
Before even Bama. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. And getting back to all of this voting that was done yesterday that kept Ohio State number 1, just like they were last week. Nothing did change in the top 4 because you still have Ohio State as number 1. You still have Bama. I'm so used to seeing Bama up there. You have Georgia at number 2. Should get used to that. They're the ones who were doing the repeat, looking for the 3-peat. Michigan, who I thought should have been number 1 from the beginning of the season with their returning quarterback, they're at number 3. Florida State, probably, obviously, the weak link when you look at it. Generally speaking, because of the conference, the ACC just isn't the Big Ten. Just isn't.
Plus, they've had some close games. They went OT with Clemson.
And they just won this past week against Pittsburgh. Got off to a sluggish start, but they were missing their playmakers at the receiver spot. Specifically Coleman. Keon Coleman was missing, who once played for Michigan State. So, but anyways, and they still were able to pull it off. And this Saturday, they're playing in their rivalry game against Miami, which we will be at that game. Just in case you all didn't know, you can find out. You better ask somebody. We're going to be at that game on Saturday and see how that goes down. I'm looking for Miami to get the upset, but I'm going to feel like when I leave that game, I will be the one upset. So that's what's going to happen. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm still going to root for my Canes, but
I hope the Hurricanes are able to keep it close, if not somewhat close.
last year's
If the
game
game's
that I think
over,
blowout.
if the game's over 5 minutes into the third quarter, it'll be disappointing. But
Man, it's all
I'm going for Chief Osceola and Renegade for the
yeah.
most part,
We'll be there
and
early enough to watch
Tomahawk
Chief
Chop
Osceola.
and all that.
We will be there early enough to watch Chief Osceola go out there and throw this spear to the ground. Renegade on top of Renegade. I've seen it a couple of times. I've been on the ground floor for it, man. You know what? You don't have to be a Florida State fan to enjoy that kind of a thing. You know what I mean? It's just one of those historical things, or just one of those college football-esque kind of things you see. It's almost like looking at Texas when they have, which one has Debo? I think Texas has Debo, or even watching Oklahoma. The
Bevo,
shooter,
isn't it?
Debo, right? Bevo.
Bevo,
Yeah, Debo is the one coaching at Clemson.
give me your clipboard.
Give him a clipboard on Friday. But you look at these kinds of traditions. That's definitely one that you need to see in person. And even though he's passed away, watching Bobby Bowden and his practices in the old Ivory Tower, that was another thing that I got a chance to watch at one point. Bobby.
I just want to say right quick. Usually we don't promote ourselves. We don't promote the show, but if you're interested, follow us on Facebook. We'll be going live. It's gonna be quite an experience. I can't wait for Saturday, man. I'm
Oh yeah,
hyped up.
absolutely, man. Man, I think that Dayquil is helping. For real, man. Got half the bottle left. Yeah, that Dayquil is helping. But yeah, man, we're gonna go live a couple of times before the game, during the game.
Yeah, hold on. I said follow us, but you gotta look for Sports Bag Bros.
Yes.
That's the name of the podcast. That's the name of the page on Facebook. Sports Bag Bros.
And we have guys who interact with us on that page, from time to time, at least liking all
I'm
that.
saying if people are new, just watching this, or they want to see what it's like, maybe they don't know Chief Osceola and Renegade.
Yeah. A diehard sports
it's a
fan.
sight to see, I'll tell you that.
It is going to be a sight to see in person. It's one thing, right. And if you've gone to a lot of events in your life, whether it was boxing, football, or whatever, being in person is almost always is different. I mean, you can get hyped up at home watching your favorite team play against a top team, and you do get hyped up. But in person, man, and then you have the energy from the other people who are there kind of interfering, or not even interfering, but it's kind of energizing you as well, depending on what part of the aisle you're on when you go to these games.
Yeah.
Because I went to the last Miami-Florida State game was when Kyle Wright was there, and Florida State won that game on Memorial Day, Labor Day night, and that was whatever, man. As I was leaving,
say Memorial Day, and Josh Purdy,
right?
Bro. Hey, you mentioned boxing. If you're going to boxing to a boxing event, make sure you're close, because if you're not close, you don't hear the sound of the punches. You can't tell if the punches land clean. It's better to stay at home, especially if it's a big fight. If you're just going to go, then yes, go enjoy yourself. But you'll see if you're not close, if you can't hear the punches landing, if you don't see the punches landing, there's a lot of times if you watch boxing, punches will go over a guy's head and the crowd goes, ooh.
Yep.
That's because they can't see. They're so far away.
Yeah.
From their perspective, it looks like it landed. You're sitting at home like, man, that didn't even land. What's wrong with the crowd? It's because they can't hear the punches and they can't see the punches.
And it's just like the reason why the referees are around the ring. They're not all just sitting next to each other watching the fight. They're in different parts of the ring, so they can watch and see the ones. Because that's why you might get a varying scorecard, because you got a ref that's over there, then a ref that's over judges, right?
Judges. I'm trying to help you.
I think it's COVID, man. I tell you what, it got to be COVID, man. My memory's like shot. I feel like one of these old Rocky 12 movies.
I hope not.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, yeah, the boxing match. Another thing, if you wanted to, for at least just to throw out there, if you go to a boxing match, especially a big one, I went to Roy Jones's third fight against Antonio Tarver, and Michael Buffer's in there. You hear like, you don't know anything, you can't hear anything, but on television, you hear it, let's get ready to rumble, and everybody knows how it sounds. But when you're in person, you do not hear it like that. So don't fool yourself when you decide to go to one of these big fights and Michael Buffer happens to be there, and you've been waiting around just to join in on, let's get ready to rumble. You can't really hear it. You just hear a bunch of noise.
You hear the bell ring like, what happened? He
Exactly.
didn't say let's get it rumble.
It sounds. You're like, okay. But anyways, another
Back
story
on
for
track.
another day. Getting back to that college football, I'll tell you the top four teams that are still there according to what their the college football playoffs, and there's still teams on the outside.
We can't
Washington.
sleep on
I'm
Washington.
about to
Their
say
defense
Washington.
might be suspect, but their offense
The
puts up
offense is lighting
numbers,
it
man.
up. But
Yeah.
now did the offense light it up because USC is that bad? The reason why Alex Grinch before Christmas was fired as defensive coordinator. The Grinch lost his job. So I mean the defense was horrible last
But
year. It was horrible this
but
year.
USC's not the only team they lit up though.
They've lit up a lot of teams. Now
Right.
Michael Penix did have a game in which he had over 200 yards, close to 300 yards, and no touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, that's not saying that he's a bad quarterback, but there's times when it could stagnate a bit, and it comes with the better teams. And the Pac 12 over the past several years hasn't been looked at as a conference with the better teams. What happens when they play against a Big Ten team or play against an SEC team or even just a good team, period, that's not from one of those, the SEC or the Big Ten? Maybe Florida State if they played them. But either way, I think that is
That's why they play the games.
that's why they play the games. They're number 5 right now. Number 6 is Oregon. Those two played one another already. Oregon lost that game and had every opportunity to win, and it was in Washington. So
the coach screwed it up.
yeah, the coach screwed it up because he has the goodwill to be able to go for things he don't have to go to, go and do, taking chances that he doesn't have to take, but being with his pedigree, coming from the SEC, getting his first head coaching job, and he has that goodwill, and the team is playing well. And then, of course, you move down the line. I think there were some people complaining because Alabama is still at number 8. And the reality is they're still behind Texas because of the head-to-head matchup. Sorry. That's the only way. If there was nothing else to differentiate between the two teams, you have to go with the team that won. And the team that won, regardless of how early in the season it might have been, and even though they both are one-loss teams now, you still got to give the nod to the head-to-head matchup winner. That's Texas. So as long as Texas is still winning and Alabama is still pacing them, at least right now, I don't think Alabama can jump over them until the SEC championship game when they take on Georgia. If they do not lose, will still either be number 2 or maybe even number 1.
Yeah, they'd have to do something massive to justify jumping over Texas. Beating Georgia, I think, would suffice.
Yeah, because I think people think that this. I hear Bama fans, and I understand the bias they have from being Bama fans, or the bias that any fan would have for their team. But Alabama seems like they've always happened to get their way when they needed it, except for last year when Nick was pretty much crying on TV trying to get in, and he didn't get in. But they just believe that, why can't we jump Texas? We're better than Texas. You didn't prove that you were better than Texas when you played Texas at your house. You got one of the biggest beatings you've gotten in the Nick Saban era in your house against Texas.
It's not like Texas kicked the last-second field goal to win. They were in control of that game, yeah.
Now things are different. I mentioned Jalen Monroe is playing much better as a quarterback now. The defense is absolutely phenomenal right now. But when you had your opportunity, you didn't do anything. So you have to wait for these things to happen. And guess what? I think some of these things will happen because Ohio State and Michigan have to play one another. So there's going to be some movement there. There's still a Big 12 championship game. So there may happen, some things may happen there. Look what happened to TCU last season, lost to Kansas State when they were supposed to have been a shoo-in as an undefeated team, getting an opportunity at a college championship in the playoffs. But, those things can happen. So Bama still has a way there. It's just that there's a lot more navigating the terrain than they want.
Right. And if Ohio State and Michigan are undefeated when they play each other, it could be that the loser just falls to 3 or 4.
Yep. You know why? You could say that because that's what happened when Alabama might have beaten Georgia or Georgia might have beaten Alabama. They didn't fall too far out because the games were pretty close to where they might have dropped enough just to still be within that top 4 to go into the playoffs. So, but I think
the only thing is if you got an undefeated Florida State and Washington, I don't know how you can justify keeping them out.
Exactly, because I thought one of the sticking points and the reason why they have it the way they have it now is to prevent what happened when people were complaining about Nebraska getting into the championship game years ago without being conference champions. And they tried to make up for it all these years later. Like right now, you need to be a conference champ in order to get in. Well, Alabama has lost the SEC championship game, just fell a couple, and they were still in the mix. and it shouldn't have been based on the letter of the law they're trying to force. But right now, I think Florida State, if it comes down to strength of schedule, I don't think Florida State has enough on there for them to still make their case with Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan being as good as they are, and then Alabama or even LSU and Georgia and other SEC teams. Ole Miss coming to Athens this week to play Georgia, another big name they can knock off and help solidify their spot as a number 2 team and probably get a chance to jump over if Ohio State has another start like they did against Rutgers this past weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting. We're getting down to crunch time, last few weeks. Got some big games on the horizon. A lot of games to look forward to. I'm excited for this Saturday, but the college scene overall is exciting, and
Man,
we got to keep our eye on it.
Go to Doak Campbell Stadium, as huge as it is, first of all. It's cavernous as you don't know what, like the Grand Canyon, and every seat is filled, and it's going to be that way for Miami. Whether it's a good or bad Miami team, just the hatred that's in this, the good hatred that's in
Are
this
they
rivalry.
bleachers? Are they bleacher seats?
Yeah, they got bleacher seats.
Okay, I was just curious.
See, you know what? I don't want to say it like I had some type of real privilege, but I never had to sit in the bleachers. I was either on the sidelines or in the press box. They had seats in the press box, but I'd rather have been on the sideline, walking out there, just standing out there, but you still look at the crowd and you're down and like, man, this crowd really has an effect on this game. And you feel the ground shaking when they all really got it going on. I'm like, man, you talk about a home field advantage, and I know that it's not just exclusive to Florida State.
I know when that band goes dun, 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 dun. Oh shit! I know it's gonna be on, man. First time I hear that, it's gonna be on.
Like Ali would say, I'll get my soul together. Those 100,000 brothers screaming, Ali Boomaye. That's what they'll be doing out there on Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium at Bobby Bowden Field, by the way. They named the field after him. But yeah, this is going to be a whole lot to watch. And by the way, I know people still want to take shots at Deion Sanders. And I know right now he says Shadua isn't going to go pro next year. He's going to probably stay for another year. Well, he's saying he's staying for another year. And, I don't know, man. People have been waiting for a while to say these types of things to Coach Prime because they didn't give their chance in the first 3 games of the season. Now they see how it's going. And it's just filled.
When it comes to his kids, man, he's starting to sound a little like LeVar Ball. It shouldn't be his decision. It shouldn't be up to him. If Shadua wants to leave, let him go.
But I'm wondering, on the other hand, did Shadua say, no, I don't want to leave? And he just conveyed the message because he's
that's true.
Do it. Now, if he's the one making the decision, that's that LeVar Ball vibe.
But he's saying it like it's fact. And, if it's my son, I'd be like, I've talked to him. He's weighing his decisions. Maybe you go ask him and you get his perspective. It's his decision. I'm not going to say if he's staying or going.
Yeah, Coach Prime probably should let the people know or say, my son, I spoke to my son, and you kind of tell him what the decision was. Don't say it as if it's your decision that was made and he had no say-so in it. And, if he were drafted this year, and I think even next year, I don't know, I don't want to look like or sound like one of these haters. I don't think he's a first rounder, let alone a number 1 pick overall. But, he's gotten better because he has better talent around him. But still, that consistency with reading defenses, one game you're like, finally, he's reading from left to right, and he's making the plays, and he's making the decisions, even in a losing cause, and he's showing some leadership. And then the next game, it's not like that anymore. Now, is it because he's getting sacked so often with that terrible offensive line, or is he still having problems throwing that ball? By the way, Coach Prime, you still haven't won an HBCU championship. Just last December, you lost to South Carolina State with your son, who stumped his foot against South Carolina State. 2 consecutive Celebration Bowls in which he did not do well. And then he gets to college and plays well in the beginning. And now he's kind of looking a little bit like I saw the previous 2 seasons. I think people are jumping on him who have not watched him play at Jackson State, or they jumped on the bandwagon in the second year instead of the first year. He's made improvement. I'm not saying he didn't. The point is that I don't see a first-round talent. I've seen a first-round talent come out of the HBCU ranks, and that was Steve McNair. And he was better than Division I A quarterbacks from what I saw out there in that football field back in 1992. the best quarterback I've seen in person in college to this day.
Well, we talked about it yesterday, right? And again, it could be there's a lot of film on him now,
Is that it?
and D coordinators know how to slow him down, maybe how to confuse him. Oregon really put it on him, so I'm sure whoever they play, they go to that Oregon tape, and then they say, well, maybe we don't quite have the athletes, so let's look at another tape. Let's see what Colorado State did. Um, you know, let's see what Arizona did. Um, so I'm pretty sure there's a lot of that going on, and who knows? You got Harbaugh saying that Rutgers and Ohio State conspired.
And
For all
Purdue.
you know, all the coaches in the Pac-12 are conspiring. Hey, this is what we saw. Here, you watch this video and you figure out what you can do with it. Who knows if that's going on? Man, in Pop Warner, we pounded so many teams. We won a state championship when we went to the Midwest Championship.
Mhm.
After the game, we found out that four of the towns we were playing team from Indiana. We're Illinois. We're in Indiana, but we found that four towns sent film of their games against us to that team to help them to beat us.
Even on that level. So you already know when dudes are getting paid millions
Yeah,
of dollars, that is a whole
and
lot more
we're talking
sophisticated.
11 and 12-year-old kids, man. Come on.
Man, that's as grimy as it gets. I can understand you want to win, man. And I see
I
how
mean, as opposed to what our coach did, he went to the game, he videoed the team, and then he videoed the game, and then we broke down the film ourselves. We didn't have nobody send stuff to us, and it was just one game we had film on.
see, maybe you would just hate it. You know, the winners are always hated. So where everybody that you've beaten, the card you left in your path, they all come together and try to put a Voltron thing on you for feet and legs, arms and body, and I'll form the head. They're trying to go after this guy.
Yeah,
Well, that's grimy though, man. But hey, that's just the way it goes in competition because they do the same thing in literally World Series. Now there was cheating with Danny Almonte, but there's been times when people are just doing these investigations and going deep. Like with him, they went as far as going to the Dominican Republic, man, to get his freaking get relatives to talk
I
about
remember.
what was going
I
on.
remember there being stories too. I don't know if it was Florida or California, maybe both. Texas adults are betting on the kids' games, man. That's crazy. That's way out there.
Well, Luther Campbell, former Luke, 2 Live Crew, he talked
Hmm.
about how they gambled on Pop Warner football down in Miami. Miami and the state of Florida, down in South Florida, is a different brand of football. That's why there's so many savages that come out of there. Those guys they play so much different football. I think Jacksonville plays the second closest in terms of the way the football is played and how good players are to what Miami. And you don't even call it Miami. You say South Florida because Lauderdale is also included, and then even probably West Palm Beach to a degree. But anyways, yeah, they bet on games down there. Luke made it clear a few times, and I believe he was correct.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, man, and you see the way even the moms get into the games and how they speak to their kids, the way a coach in the NFL probably don't speak to the players, cursing them out, the whole deal, man. That's why these guys grow up as dogs and get into the league because they made for it, So
Yeah.
that man. But anyways, whew, we got a lot going on college football wise, man. So hopefully,
Yesterday was weird, man. It was Tuesday night, no football. There was no NBA either.
no NBA. Yeah, I noticed that yesterday.
Not one or two games. What the hell?
Nothing. I don't know what the deal was. Maybe
Yeah.
I can't. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they thought baseball would still be going on when they made the schedule. Maybe there might have been a baseball game that they
But
felt.
then why have games on Monday night when you know there's Monday night football?
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense.
maybe they looked at the Monday Night Football schedule
I
and they
think
sort of
it
guessed, but they
would
didn't
have
know
been
Aaron
game
Rodgers was going to
7.
be out.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna have a ton of games tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, no, they have a
Bears and
boatload.
Panthers. They ain't stopping nobody.
And you know what? And it also gave a lot of shine to the college basketball games yesterday. I mean, there were some college basketball games. The games I was looking at, the one I was looking forward to. We talked about it yesterday with St. John's going out playing Stony Brook, won by 16. I know everybody doesn't want to watch St. John's, but I'm thinking they're looking more at Rick Pitino and what he can do with this team after what he's done with Iona for the time he was there. that team was formidable. It wasn't just one of these small schools that just was a pest. They were actually winning games and scoring a lot of points. Rick Pitino's
I
back.
didn't see any games that piqued my interest, so I ended up watching Webner on Prime, the Chuck Webner story. It was
Oh,
pretty
see,
good.
so I didn't watch that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. You know, he claims he's the real Rocky,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but he went to prison, and when he was in prison, him and says, "Hey, come with me." He's like, "Where are we going?" He's like, "Just come with me. Sylvester Stallone's here. He wants to see you." And he had met Sylvester Stallone.
Mhm.
Supposedly they tried to get him into Rocky 2, but when he read, he was trash. So they couldn't even put him in the movie. But he thought he's getting screwed, and so he goes and they're filming Lockup, and Chuck Webner's like, "Oh, this motherfucker." And I go to prison now. He's making a prison movie. And according to Chuck, now Lockup has nothing to do with a boxer or anything like that. But
Just prison.
according to Chuck, yeah, he stole my life story
Yeah, yeah,
in
exactly, bro.
several movies. Oh man, it's crazy. I'm pretty sure he got a payout
I
at
think I
some
may
point.
have heard
I don't
that.
know how much or what, but it's just funny, to hear him say, "I'm the real Rocky," and there may be some truth to it, but he's been holding on to that for a long time.
He's
Now
been
there's a
saying that.
movie about it,
Yeah,
huh?
just like him knocking Muhammad Ali down was as flukish and freakish as phony as crap. Stepped on his foot, and he still stands over him like he did a real knockdown. Come on, I'm not gonna believe anything Chuck Wepner says. Anything. But this is the Bayonne Bleeder. Bayonne is in
Right.
Jersey. I mean, it might be South Jersey, which is close to Philadelphia, but some people say it was Joe Frazier's story, who actually
He
was from Philly and who actually was working at a slaughterhouse, which Rocky was doing, punching the meat and all that. You know
It
what I
was
mean?
a combination
Probably,
because Joe actually won the title,
Joe won the title, and
so
on top of that, I think Joe
he
did
probably,
get
he
rid.
probably grabbed from Joe from Webner, put them together.
And isn't there a story, if not true, that Joe Frazier did get an opportunity to be in the Rocky movie outside of initially just doing the handshake in the beginning of the fight? But I heard he did break one of Stallone's ribs. They thought he
Really,
was
I
too
don't
rough.
remember that.
I heard the story that he roughed him up a little bit, and that was pretty much the end of it.
I
You know,
know Dolph Lundgren put him in the
I don't now.
hospital.
Dolph Lundgren almost killed him. Literally almost killed him. His freaking heart started swelling up, and he hit his
Yeah,
chest so
it
hard.
hit his chest. They said
Yeah, man, look
that's
that dog.
crazy.
Yeah,
Maybe Drago should have been a boxer,
but he was a kickboxer and a championship kickboxer.
or was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The ironic part was years later, after Rocky, way past Rocky, he was still doing his competitive kickboxing. And for some reason, this is my first time getting a chance to see him in kickboxing. I'm expecting some Drago work. He was like trash in there. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened here? You know what I mean? I know it's choreographed, it's a movie, but I'm expecting a little bit more from him. But he was also an older fighter back then. I haven't seen any of his, I guess, prime years as a kickboxer. But yeah, man, he did win some championships as a kickboxer. And he
What
was
do
a
you
lot
think?
lighter.
What do you think about the Creed movies?
You know what? I don't watch them.
I like the first one. The 2 and 3 I thought were just too outrageous.
I had a trip out west a couple of years ago, and it was like a 4 or 5 hour flight. And I threw it in there because someone's told me for a while to throw it in there to watch it.
Uh,
And it just wasn't what I don't know, probably because it wasn't a Rocky movie. I didn't even, for a while, I didn't even know it was part of the franchise. I thought it was just something completely separate, but it's part of the freaking Rocky franchise.
right, right.
And so, and the reason why I find that out is because I go on some of these trivia things they have on the internet, and they're asking about Rocky. I'm like, bro, I know everything about Rocky. And we're going through it, and I'm just knocking it down. And they start asking questions about Apollo, Creed, Adonis Creed. I'm like, who is that? Who the hell is that?
Who's Adonis Creed?
That's what I was asking because I hadn't seen the movie. And I'm like, who is that?
The one thing I didn't like is that there was no mention or no scenes of Apollo's real children. Well, not his real children, because I guess Adonis
You're the ones
is
from the
his
movie,
real child.
the two
But
kids.
yeah, the ones from he had with his wife.
Yeah.
they're nowhere to be found.
You know,
Where's his
they
brother? Where's
completely
his
threw the
sister?
storyline out the window. I mean, you can point out a lot of things that might have. You can point out some things from the Rocky franchise or even other movies. Like for instance, in Rocky, he was completely brain damaged and couldn't fight anymore in Rocky 5 with Tommy Morrison. But then in Rocky 6, you know what? Everything's cool. We
You
let him fight
knocked
the
him
champ.
down. Now try knocking me down.
Exactly. He's like brain dead, having these flashbacks, having these headaches. And he's like, oh, you can't fight anymore because you have brain damage. Okay, your brains don't regenerate cells, so you're not going to get rid of brain damage. That's Riddick Bowe. And then he goes into his Rocky 6. Well, everything's good. With 10 rounds with the champ. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
Antonio Tarver was disappointing that night.
But you know what? To balance it out, he broke his hand. So that kind of gave you a little bit more,
Yeah,
made it more
yeah,
believable.
and his hard ass. Yeah, I forgot about that. He went
Incidentally,
he went the distance with the champ.
incidentally though, Burt Sugar, as you know, was in that movie. And he was telling me about the movie before it came out. He's like, you better not tell anybody this. And he was going to tell me the ending. He's like, I'm going to tell you what happened. But I was like, all right. He said, but you can't tell anybody about it. And he gives me what had happened. And I was like, so I thought, from him telling me, I thought it was a boring storyline. Because they made it believable, making him break his hand, and he went 10 rounds at the champ and all that stuff. And I was oh, okay. But watching it, I actually liked it. I like Rocky 6. I guess the nostalgia with Spider Rico involved and cuffing Link inside the bull.
Yeah.
They're now big turtles, and turtles can live forever. So it's legitimate to believe. But back in '76 when the movie was made, they're still around. They're like, yo, bro.
Rocky came out in '76.
The first one.
Damn, I didn't know it was that.
Remember, it was the bicentennial. '76.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You're right. Yep. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I know, right? What the hell is it turned to Cisco and Ebert? But anyways, the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, they started off the week football, Thursday night football, played against the Titans. Will Levis tried to go out there and duplicate what he did the previous week. Well, the Steelers end up pulling it off. Dante Johnson makes the game-winning touchdown, but George Pickens doesn't his body language. He's not happy about the win because he didn't get the ball enough. He had -1 yards receiving, so he doesn't care about the win. He cares about his numbers. That's a bad look, man.
It is a bad look. Pouting after a win is never a good look.
Never, exactly. And then he goes.
Somebody's got to get in his ear and tell him, "Hey, you can't act like that."
Well, what brought attention to it is that he went onto his social media, I think Instagram, and started erasing everything from Pittsburgh. You think people aren't going to notice that for the fans you do have? Because he's played pretty well this season. He's had a couple of 100-yard plus games this season. But this game here, he had.
Is his contract up at the end of the year?
I don't know. You know what?
Because if it's not, there's no point in deleting it. He's not going anywhere.
Man, that's a guy in his feelings. Unbelievable. Come on, man. You're a dude in your feelings. You're a good player yourself. I'm not going to say he's not. But come on, man. You're going about it the wrong way. You got to win. Everybody's celebrating because it's a big win, and you're like, whatever, man. I didn't get my yards.
Yeah.
That's a terrible look, man.
Especially
going through what the Steelers have been going through with the tough wins. Try to get wins to begin with.
All I can think of is maybe he's been entitled most of his life, and
that's 3/4 of the NFL, and maybe the same with the NBA and other sports.
I can't relate to that, so I don't know. I'm trying not to really bash him, but get out your feelings, sissy.
Well, yeah, that's good. Not bashing him. But I tell you, man. Look, I played semi-pro ball, and we had a team that didn't win a lot. I'm not gonna call them bad because they'll watch the video and say, "Why are you shouting this out?" Because everybody else called us bad too. But anyways, I was out there, and when we got a win, bro, I didn't give a damn how many yards I had. I still was happy about it. And I played running back, and I remember taking the beating. I remember not being the soreness didn't go away till Thursday from a Sunday game. And back then, I was 155 pounds. You know what I mean? The following season, though, I put 30 pounds off in the off season. I felt like Latimer.
Yeah, I don't get it. He must not feel like part of the team because what's he thinking? Like, if you feel part of the team but you didn't contribute, you feel bad. Like, hey man, thanks for getting my back tonight. I didn't play well, but you guys got it done.
And there's another game.
I'll be better next week. That's what a team oriented person does or thinks.
And that's exactly what it should be. And you're getting a paycheck. When the paychecks come out, nothing's changed. You got your -1 yard of reception, and you're still getting paid the same you got paid the previous week, whatever else. And you're pouting over this, man. Just get glad knowing that you're in one of the most competitive divisions in all of football right now, probably the most competitive division in football, with the Bengals playing the way they are now and the Cleveland the defense they have. Bro, be glad you can scratch out a freaking win. And you're going to cry about it because you weren't a bigger part of the freaking offense. He's upset about the load, about not being a bigger part of the offense, man. You know what? I can't relate either, man. I'm just happy to catch a win if I'm in a team sport.
Exactly.
Especially in the NFL, man, every player would tell you, it's hard to win in this league. I still speak to some guys on occasion. They tell you the same thing. It's hard to win in this league. It sounds like cliche, but it is.
I don't know who's the leader on that team, if they even have one, but whoever it is got to go talk to him. Like, hey, you get out your feelings, get your shit together, get your mind right. We need you. We don't need all this pouting. We won.
Yep.
Whether you got your stats, whether you got your catches, who freaking cares? We got a game next week to get ready for.
And do something there. Cam Hayward might need to be that guy. He's getting paid the big money. He is the big player on that team. TJ Watt, another big player on that team. Bro, somebody need to speak to this kid. You don't got to be on the offensive side to speak to an offensive player. You just got to be on the team to speak to a teammate. That's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that was just kind of weak, man. I was thinking all along that was pretty damn weak.
Very weak.
And weak going back AF. What do you say?
Weak AF.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And he'll try to justify it, I'm sure. If someone spoke to him one-on-one, he'll justify what just happened or try to explain it away, and he just can't do it. We saw the body language, man, and now it's coming out that you did all this deleting it and so forth. But going back a little bit, spinning a little bit on the spin cycle, going back to college basketball for a second, Vanderbilt lost to Presbyterian last night. And I only mention that because Jerry Stackhouse is the head coach of Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? And
that's funny. And that skip baseless alma mater.
It was Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's bro, I've been to that campus, man. That's a hell of a freaking campus, man.
Yeah, here's college. They're just not good at sports.
Oh, no, well, baseball. You got a hell of a baseball team. Just that the basketball team can be good on occasion, but they lost last night. Presbyterian a few years ago, they don't give football scholarships anymore, but they do give basketball scholarships. But even though giving basketball scholarships is something they do, they don't get that quality of play that even Vanderbilt gets. And they lost. I watched some of this game, and I look at these guys like, bro, these dudes can actually play at Presbyterian. I don't know who came from the transfer portal, if they have any of those guys.
They ran into a buzzsaw then, huh?
They did, and it was in Vanderbilt. And you see that ugly-ass court they have that's been killing me for the last 20 years or more. That court sucks.
But can you imagine you're a fan, you go to that game? Yeah, college basketball is getting started. We're losing to Presbyterian?
Presbyterian, man. We had high hopes and high apple pie in the sky. But yeah, man, 68-62, and they were down by as many, I believe it's 12, at least when I was watching. It might have been more than that when I wasn't watching. But yeah, man, Presbyterian, hey, they when they left the Big South, that's when they started getting getting rid of scholarships for football, but I guess basketball still has them. It's much easier to have a basketball team with scholarship players because there's not as many as a whole football roster. Well, that's the deal. And finally, I guess we could come to this conclusion. Jake Paul is deciding to get back into the ring. He says they asked for it. I'm going to give it to them. What does he mean? He means that Andre August, a cruiserweight who's ranked 322nd in the world, is going to fight him. He's going to fight a boxer because he hears it. You hear these fighters, people, I don't listen to the media. I don't listen to people. You listen to people and you hear the media. And you're social media guys.
If he's saying he wants to win a championship, you don't fight number 399. You know what? Fight somebody top 50 at least.
But you know what the deal is with him? He's 7-1. This guy here is 10-1-1. The deal is
those are not real fights.
You know what?
Football players, basketball players.
But no, for him, I'm saying the other guy, the RJ August guy that he's fighting, he's 10-1-1. The guy just fought recently, won a decision. This will be his first 8-rounder. On top of that, he was off for 4 years until he had this most previous fight. So there's still a little bit of that element of boxing in there, fighting a guy that has a record, but man, he just started fighting again 4 years from a 4-year layoff.
There you go. There's some angle.
Now, but check this out though, and I've said it before when it came to Jake Paul. And you know what? Give a guy his props for being out there and getting the money and getting the eyeballs on him and making the money he's making. But why should he have to fight all of these major guys out there with the record that he has? Mike Tyson didn't fight those kinds of guys in his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh fight, 10th fight, 15th fight.
I'm
But
not
Mayweather
saying
didn't do the same.
I'm not saying top 5, top 10, not even top 20.
I mean,
One guy in top 50 maybe.
but in terms of quality, because you talked about they fought MMA
No,
guys.
no. When you're going around talking all kind of shit, I can do this, I can do that. I'm gonna be champ. Blah 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 blah. Then fight somebody.
You know what? That's Buzz. He has his crowd already. He
I'm
knows
just
that
saying,
when
don't talk shit and then don't
he don't
back it
fight
up.
anybody.
That's what I'm saying. Fight
Yeah,
somebody.
and this dude's a
Otherwise,
legitimate
otherwise
boxer.
you're just talking shit. You're just a bum on the corner.
And this dude here is a legitimate boxer, Andre August. I haven't watched him fight. I looked at his record. He hasn't fought anybody of substance, but he's been in the boxing ring. He has some experience. I don't know how far back his amateur career may go. He may not have had amateur fights. Same thing like Jake Paul. He hasn't had amateur fights, but then it's like a lot of boxing purists. They're like, man, he should just fight this guy. He should fight Canelo, that kind of thing. A guy with a bunch of fights. And I'm thinking that, bro, no other boxer, but Muhammad Ali fought Tony Hunsicker, a freaking police officer, in his first fight. You know what I'm saying? So these guys weren't fighting guys that were brought in to beat them. Butterbean picked every fight that he's had. You know what I mean? But Jake Paul
was not a real contender.
Exactly, he was not a real contender.
Just a pay-per-view sideshow.
Now Jake Paul is now talking about being a contender. He's going about it the way that boxers do, building a record against other boxers who aren't that great. And let's hope for his sake that he does, if he wins this fight and continues to do the boxing thing like he claims, he fights more often, and that he increases the talent level of the opponents that he's fighting so that people can take him serious as a boxer and not just a sideshow fighting MMA guys, NBA guys, and kind of sort of boxers like Tommy Fury.
Yeah, well, if he does that, more power to him. But what he should do is put competitive fights on the undercard, not the trash that they show.
And that's true too. But to his benefit, at least, he said, you know what, this isn't about business right now. I'm serious about becoming a contender. And so he has on DAZN. It's not pay-per-view. So if you have a DAZN subscription, you can watch the fight. Watch him fight this guy, and I think the eyeballs will be there. He's going to have his core guys, his core people who watched him since he's been on social media. They don't necessarily have to be boxing fans, but because of what he's done over the years, you're going to now have these boxing fans watching and hoping that he loses. He's in a win-win situation. So he's going to get his money, whether it's a pay-per-view fight or whether it's a DAZN fight. He's going to get his money. And I don't know how much it is about money to him now, or is it about to him saying, I want to be a champion, just go out and try to do it. The odds are against him, especially at cruiserweight. You kidding me? But, hey, I guess I just give him credit for going out there fighting a real fighter, and let's see if he continues to fight real fighters, or if he gets upset here, does he go back to fighting MMA guys and basketball players?
That's the question. We have to wait and see. But if he loses to number 300 and whatever you said,
where's that violin?
Say his real boxing career would be over, in my opinion. He'll always be a circus.
And the worst part about it is this comes on the tail end of what happened with Tyson Fury getting knocked down by Ngannou and getting knocked down. Now, of course, you have people out there saying Ngannou is the real champ. It's a 10-rounder, man. Even if he would have won, he wouldn't have won the title. It was a non-title fight. Now, it does give the buzz for the next fight, and people took this fight so lightly that about 60,000 pay-per-views for this fight. But I guarantee you, if they do get in there a second time, if Fury could beat Usyk, you're talking serious money and serious pay-per-view eyes coming in that next fight they have. That buzz alone was going to bring the people out. So, whatever. If Jake Paul loses this fight, does it end his career, or does he just go back to fighting those guys? We don't know, and we'll just have to find out. And from the fight I saw with him and Tommy Fury, man, I was disappointed in his skill set. I thought he had come along a little further than he did.
I haven't really watched him, man.
I watched more clips and highlights of what he's done than his actual whole fights. The last fight, not the last fight, but the fight that he had against Fury, I did watch that whole fight because I'm thinking, all right, I want to see this whole thing come together. And it didn't come together. And Tommy Fury is, hey, people say anybody who gets in that ring deserves credit, and to a degree, yeah. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you have some people, come on, man, they make a farce out of it, and it's
No,
still.
when I heard he's fighting Fury, I'm like, good, he's gonna fight an actual boxer. I said, and watch, he's gonna lose, and he lost.
Oh yeah, he
So
lost. Yeah, he did lose the fight, man, and it was a
so
clear
now
loss.
he went back to circus. So I don't watch.
Started juggling the balls again. But now he has my man coming in, and I think it was what December 15th, so next month, just about a month from now, a little bit over a month from now, he'll get a chance to go out there and just show that he really means it this time. He wants to be a champ, and we'll find out.
Hold
And
on. Yesterday we talked about the Lakers sending
oh, you know what? I was
for
gonna remind
the
you that I couldn't
NBA.
remember something, man. I knew you got to come with it. Give it to
No,
him.
no crosshairs. I'm just saying it's hilarious. LeBron James tweeted, "The basketball game is more than the last 2 minutes. For what happens in the first quarter, second, third can impact the rest of the game. Take your L, man. Stop whining, dude. You're in your 40s now, man. It's not a good look to be whining, dude. Come on, coach, send the video. Send the video. Let them know I got fouled. Come on, man. Let it go. Everybody, everybody gets fouled and doesn't get called from time to time. You don't have to send film to the league. Take your L, bro.
And then the league comes back and says, "No, nothing did happen at all.
Right.
You're wrong.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, man. Keep playing. You got a long season, bro." But anyways, yeah, you know what I was thinking about? I just couldn't remember exactly. I knew you had to get at him over it, man. But you don't need to get the claws hands though, because there's more where that came from.
Yeah, because I saw the tweet after we ended the show yesterday. I was like, oh man, if I had seen it before, I would have mentioned it. But so I mentioned it today.
Man, so he's losing his clout, man. He's losing his clout. He's not getting his calls anymore, even off the court.
I don't know. Maybe he's gonna start flopping more. But if they call him for flopping,
now what?
Does he get fined? Are there fines for it? I can't remember.
I don't know. Is it like a foul?
I know it's a technical foul because I saw two flops back to back opening night in the Knicks game, but I haven't seen it since.
Well, because LeBron hasn't been playing in those nationally televised games, I guess he's probably doing his rendition of play dead, roll over. But anyways, that'll be it for us tonight. The Sports Bag Brothers are about to sign off. It was a pretty doggone good show, getting a chance to kind of like get into the Cisco and Ebert part of it, in addition to the college football and even some basketball.
Props to you for powering through.
Oh, yo, bro, I think the Dayquil's working, man.
Props to you for powering through.
Yeah, man, the Dayquil.
When we first came out, man, you sounded like absolute dog trash.
Yo, seriously, man, I was feeling like crap. Couldn't even breathe. But yo, I'm gonna give me that sponsorship, bro. It's coming. Dayquil did it, bro.
Oh man, we go no commercials, man. We can't have no commercials.
I know, right? We can't have no commercials, but yo, things changed in a matter of less than an hour, man. Whew. So I can now get a chance to go run after all. So
hopefully you feel better, bro.
All right, bro. So Sports
Deuces
Podcast saying deuces for the night. Out.